Good morning, hello team, and welcome back to E-commerce Experts. Firstly, a huge thank you for everybody who's liked, commented, or subscribed so far. If you haven't subscribed, I don't know why, but this episode is going to be the one that tips you over the edge. Today, we have the phenomenal, the inspirational, the exceptionally down-to-earth Noel Mack, Chief Brand Officer of Gymshark. For those of you who have been on another planet, Gymshark is the biggest brand right now, particularly on social media. Their social commerce is without a doubt one of the best in the world. Huge insights that he gives us, and I think it's his way of thinking. He as a chief brand officer, not a marketeer, he comes at things from a slightly different standpoint. And I think that is what helps Gymshark cut through the noise, make a difference, and set up their organizational structure for success. So I hope you take as much away from this as I did. Without further ado, here he is. Amazing. Well, look, thank you ever so much for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. And how did the dragon race go?
So yeah, I was gonna say we're rolling. Yeah, we're recording now. So I want to hijack your question for a second and give a massive shout out to you and the e-commerce experts podcast, because I get requests to do podcasts all the time, right? And unfortunately, I'm just busy, as you can probably imagine. So I'd love to say yes to all of them, but I can't. And then when this charity thing came along, there's a charity, Birmingham Women and Children's Hospital, that we're really passionate about, helping sick women and kids in our hometown of Birmingham. Hannah kindly popped up and said, "No, come on our podcast and we'll make a substantial donation to the Birmingham Women and Children's Hospital." So to everybody listening out there, that's the kind of people that you're listening to right now. Hannah and her crew made a massive donation to the sick women and children in Birmingham. So Han, before we talk anything about e-commerce, thank you very much for doing that.
No, of course, it's absolutely our honor, and I think it's really important to give back. There's nothing more important than that, and actually, it's not often that the opportunity comes up which really arises with our values. So, the NHS, women and children specifically in England, it's perfect, absolutely perfect.
Amazing.
But yeah. And in order to raise the money, you guys had to go and do a dragon boat race.
Yeah, dragon boat race. I've never done that before. And it was one of those things where I was like, oh man, I'm going to get all wet. And it's on a Saturday morning and work was really busy at the time. And I'll be honest, I turned up there a little bit like, okay, here we go. Because in my head, I thought, well, the money's raised at this point. But how well I do or don't perform in this stupid boat is irrelevant, right? Anyway, I thought that I did the first race and then my ego kicked in and there were some of my colleagues in other boats and I was like, I'm going to win this. Safe to say I definitely didn't win, but it was a lot of fun and we had some fun in Birmingham. So that was really cool in the canal.
But the other thing you're fresh out of is your brand book event. How did it go?
Yeah. You've done your research, you have, Hannah. I like this. Yeah, really good. Here's an interesting thing. Like we've grown so much in lockdown. It wasn't just the brand book event. It was the first time we've had all, quote unquote, because not everybody could make it, but all of our HQ centric staff in one place, and it was wild. Do you ever do that thing where you go for like a walk up a hill, right? And it's only when you stop, turn around, and look where the car is, you realize quite how far you've come. I talk about these moments all the time at Gymshark. That was another one the other day. So me and Ben are there on the morning, AV guys miking us up, we're running through our slides, practicing, doing whatever. Then all the humans start arriving, and I'm like, because you see the numbers, right? Like on Slack and whatever else. But all these people start arriving, you're like, no way do all these people work for Gymshark. Do you know what I mean? And there's just so many of them, so many new faces, people who I've never met in real life before, people who work in teams that they've never met in real life before because I've only ever interacted on Zoom. And it was just so great. Like, I learned a lot through COVID. I think COVID and lockdown sort of taught me a lot personally and us as a company. But after that long apart, there's nothing like getting everybody back together. Do you know what I mean? So first of all, getting back together from sort of a, everybody just feeling together from a staff point of view, but then us presenting the brand book and giving out the brand books to everybody that day and so on and so forth. So then also from a mission and vision point of view, also getting everybody together on that point. So they're all pulling towards this, unified North Star. It was really, really cool. Like it was a lot of effort. Ben was fresh back from his honeymoon and it was like, we were still cramming and rehearsing like moments before people walked through the door. So it was quite to the wire. And then sort of chilling out afterwards on the evening. And Ben texted me like, wow, that was such an amazing event. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was so great to have everybody like that, like on reflection. So yeah, it was great.
And it must have been so different from when you first joined Gymshark, all those years ago, just the development of the brand in that time and the volume of people as well that you're presenting to. All of a sudden, were there the international teams there as well, or was it focused on the UK?
So that was at the time it was just the UK. We recorded everything, and then the Denver team. So I think Hong Kong tuned in live from their office. The Denver team saw it yesterday. They replayed the recording, and then me and Ben jumped on straight afterwards to do an AMA with that office and asked us questions. So some really relevant stuff that they asked. Some stuff like who's going to play Ben Francis in Gymshark the movie, who's going to play Noel, all this stuff. That was funny.
Who is going to
But
play Ben Francis in Gymshark the movie?
I suggested Dustin Hoffman. I think he would do a good Ben.
Yeah.
And Ben suggested for me Michael Scott from the US office, like
Oh,
that
yeah.
yeah, the Ricky Gervais style character with the US version. So that was funny. But yeah, no, so they tuned in from across borders. But even yesterday, like jumped on with the US office and seeing 100+ people in Denver in an office that I've never been to. I've never met any of these humans, right? Same as Ben, we've never been there, and seeing them on camera in this thing because it's designed exactly like our offices. So it looks just like a Gymshark office, but we've never ever been there. It's crazy. But again, this
Crazy.
is what I'm talking about lessons sort of learned in lockdown. You can do stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? We hired the entire senior staff out there all via Zoom, and it's working really, really well.
Wow.
So yeah, man.
And you're going to get out there as soon as it opens up again, because it's coming up, isn't it?
Yes, in November they're saying we can get out there again. Now it's a really busy period in e-commerce, obviously,
Of
Black
course.
Friday, Cyber Monday, holidays in America, whatever else. So I won't like immediately dive on a plane and head out there. But as soon as things have sort of settled down from that point of view, and I've got all my HQ centric work done, then yeah, I'll be on the way out to Denver. Can't wait.
I won't talk about Black Friday because I don't want to jinx anything. I appreciate it's a very sensitive time of year, and you know what? 2 out of 10 years haven't been great for you, so let's hope this year is.
Yeah,
In
but the thing is, those years have taught us so much, right? About those years where we didn't do so well. I just think we learned a lot, and the thing is, right, we like speak to Shopify, like we their thing, they've told me this before. I'm sure they wouldn't mind me repeating it. Their Black Friday is when Gymshark launches Black Friday. Do you know what I mean? They say once we get over that speed bump, if that works, we know everything else is going to go swimmingly, right? So we're not just pushing the with the sorts of traffic that we can drive and these moments that we create in like in e-commerce, if you want to call it that. Are like they're not just testing the boundaries of Shopify and testing the boundaries like the internet. Like Toby, Shopify's CEO, sat and explained it to me because he's far smarter than I am about the sorts of numbers that we push to their servers and whatnot. And it was mind-boggling. Like it genuinely. He said to me, he said, "I wish you could come over to our headquarters and see what it's like T-10 when Gymshark are about to go live." He was like, "We've got all the smartest minds in the room." He's like, "We've got millions and millions of dollars worth of tech, and everyone's just tapping away, just trying to keep that website online." He said, "And once we're through that, over that speed bump, then we know the rest of the Shopify ecosystem is going to stay up for Black Friday." So, yeah, we've had some failures, but like anybody, like you win or learn, right? And we definitely learn in those moments. So I think it makes us stronger for events like this.
Hugely. And your response, and specifically Ben's response in terms of how he talks to customers about those failures, are definitely one of the reasons that Gymshark has such a fantastic reputation, right? The way he gets on a video and explains, "I'm really sorry, guys, we're down, but we're trying to fix it up." I've heard you talk about it before. It's that human element. He has a human response to a problem in your business and doesn't hide it.
Yeah, and what's funny is when you act like that, you instantly get like a. It's interesting, right? So we think of ourselves as like a headless brand. We're not above the Gymshark community. We don't own the Gymshark community. We're a part of it, just like they are, right? And like you have to have that same sort of shared success when you win, and equally the same vulnerability to lose. And what's funny is when you do take that approach, like Ben does with like his personal comms, so often people go from "I'm really angry at this company," do you know what I mean? Give me my leggings or my money or whatever it is to, "Oh, that's okay. They're working on it." Do you know what I mean? And the second you go back to them with a really human message, they come back with a very human response, right? Whereas if you put out some blanket statement from your boardroom or whatever else, we're experiencing technical difficulties, they're going to keep talking to you like you're a company. Do you know what I mean? So like this two-way interaction of like human behavior has worked really well for us historically. And equally, it means that, like, when we have done stuff like NHS campaigns and whatever else, we try to show the human in Gymshark in the good times as well as bad. And people seem to really lean into that. And I think people talk about like community marketing to me a lot and ask me about that. And they talk about why they should build a community around their business. And I think they often come at that from like a ROAS perspective, right? But one of the biggest benefits of having a community like the Gymshark one is when stuff does go wrong, they're a lot more empathetic, and they understand the journey that we're on as a business, and they know that we're not Nike, they know we're not Adidas, and they lean into that with us, and they say, guys, you got to remember this is a business that's growing very fast. There's stumbling blocks. You were hearing this from customers, right, coming to our defense on like forums and on Facebook pages. Like, it's wild. But yeah, that's why we like absolutely love them, and we keep the Gymshark community at the forefront of like absolutely every decision we make, everything we do is with those people in mind.
That's amazing. No, it's fantastic. And you touched on COVID there. I've heard you tell the story before, but you say it so well, so I'm going to ask the question again. When you saw Pret's response, how did that change your perspective of what Gymshark needed to do to get the nation and your community through the pandemic?
Yeah, Pret's response was, so for those who don't know, Pret a Manger, right? That's like a coffee and sandwich shop here in the UK. It was a wild time, wasn't it? Like right at the start there, nobody knew what to do, right? There's no playbook on what happens when there's a global pandemic. So all businesses are like, batten down the hatches, let's take stock, let's figure things out. Pret came out so fast and said, what was it, 50% off everything, free coffee for the NHS, 50% off all your food, right? Straight away, right? Unless they had unbelievable, I don't know, financial analysts or whatever else, I don't think they did, really, really dense commercial due diligence on what that was going to cost them. I think they threw caution to the wind and went, fuck it, it's going to cost us some money, but it's the right thing to do, and they will appreciate that in years to come, whatever else. Because they came out with that response so fast into the pandemic, and I thought, wow, people talk about the fact you need to put your values on display for the world to see, right? Like you did with donation to the hospital for this podcast. That was for me such a brave and such a great way to show what the values of Pret and Pret as a company are. And like, I'm not really a coffee guy, but when I am in the market, like if I'm, wandering through London or Birmingham or whatever else, and I have money to spend in one of those places, 1,000% it's going to Pret, because I know how they act, I know what their values are about. And I talk about this a lot with my team, right? People don't just buy things anymore, they vote with their pounds. And I will vote for Pret time and again based on how they responded during the pandemic. There's a line that you've probably heard me quote, and my team are definitely bored of me saying this, but the Irish Taoiseach said, straight again, very early into COVID, he gave this speech, and his final line was like, let them say of us, when times were at their worst, we were at our best. Whoever made that call at Pret can firmly say that when times were at their worst, Pret were at their best.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys did a number of things. You did the sweaty selfie, but actually one of the things that I wanted to pick up on was HomeShark. Not just because I know it's one of it might still be your most engaged message ever that went out, but the agileness of the business that it takes to listen to a 19-year-old who's got an idea and put it live in that quick time frame. How do you make it happen?
By trusting the fact that grey hair or tenure in the business doesn't always mean you have the best ideas. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm talking to myself as grey hair, by the way, at the tender age of 30. But these people, the guys that work in our social team, right, and the social disruption team and whatever else, they're good at what they do because they're so close to the culture and they just get it, right? And like, we have a formula for testing these kind of ideas that works quite nicely, which I won't let you in on because otherwise everybody will steal it. But the point I'm making is like, stuff like that, stuff like changing our Twitter name, screenshotting it and put it onto and just throwing it up on Instagram. Show me a CMO who would put that down as one of their marketing techniques, right? Show me somebody who has 15 years of experience that knows that's the right thing to do from a marketing perspective. No, they wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? I saw a great one yesterday. This Twitter trend at the minute, which is like your fella DMs girls and blah blah blah. Your fella does this, your missus does that. It's like embarrassing things to say to each other about each other's partners, right? Which is really funny. Ryanair did one that said, your fella moans about the leg room on Ryanair flights and he's only 6'4". Oh, he's only 5'4", right? And it was so like, we're in this new age of marketing now where that is not in the marketing handbook. Do you know what I mean? But they saw a cultural moment. They saw something that everybody was finding really, really funny. They found an authentic way for themselves to play in that conversation. They played in it, and it's flying around the internet, right? The earned media value of that, the one tweet that they took, screenshotted, wherever they put it, I bet it's absolutely massive. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, the HomeShark thing for us, you just have to trust these people. Like, so somebody asked me recently, like, no, where do you find these where do you find these real social experts? And it's like, where do you think? Twitter? Like, everyone else is going to everyone else is going to Harvard for their marketing execs. Gymshark's going to Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and finding these people ourselves. It's a similar story with some of our influencers, right? We've got Ryan Garcia. He's a boxer. He's one of the most influential athletes on Instagram. He's a great boxer, but he's a much better social media marketer. Like, he's unbelievable. So he's a very good boxer, but he's an unbelievable social media marketer, which is why he's in the top 10 athletes in the world on Instagram alongside Conor McGregor and Ronaldo and those guys, because he's a young kid. He spends all his time on social and he understands what works on there. So who am I, as 30 years old and spending all day in the
Around
boardroom?
age of 30.
Yeah, but I'm being serious. Like, who am I to tell the person who spends all their time on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter, does it for their job, what is and isn't going to work? Right, you have to put your faith in those people. So, and like we said, we've got an Instagram post with over 1 million likes that is testament to why that works and why we will continue to do it.
But it's also testament to your approval process, right? Because it didn't get stuck for 4 days. It didn't get stuck in, which is what normally happens with big business. And I know you guys still consider yourselves the little guys, but you are now. Maybe the unicorn status made you realize you are now big business. And so the ability for a business your size still to be able to get that idea from a 19-year-old to live within 24 hours is still a testament to your processes, actually, as much as your values and your ethos.
Honestly, I'd love to tell you it's process. I don't think it is. I think it's just attitude in general. There's things that, like, there's another harebrained idea literally today that's coming out of the social disruption team, and Aaliyah, one of the stars of that team, messaged me last night on Slack about 10 o'clock saying, "You in the office tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, why?" She said, "I've got something I need your eyes on." I know what that means. She means I've got something that needs to skip all the process that I can put your CBO stamp on and say, "Noel said this was okay," and just get it out there. But again, we have that sort of open door policy, right? I don't sit in a corner office, nor does Ben, nor does Steve, previous CEO, anyone. We sit on the same chairs, we eat in the same places. We're very, very accessible in the business. Anyone can put time in with us on Slack, Zoom, whatever. So I think it's just more of an attitude thing and an understanding of what works. This business wouldn't be here if it wasn't for 19-year-olds trusting their gut. Those 19-year-olds can't then turn 30 and we still trust their gut. Do you know what I mean? We have to keep it at that age group and that ear to the ground sort of cultural understanding.
I'm so glad you've mentioned the social disruption team twice now, because I heard you mention it on Warren Weeks and I was like, that's a really interesting concept. I've never heard any other business before say they have a social team, a paid social team, and a social disruption team. I take it the hint is in the name as to what they do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is the thing, right? I think if you know anybody who works in social, they'll tell you, like, businesses who don't understand social will hire a social media manager, and they'll say, and then, the JD will look something like, "Hey, we need a social media manager, somebody who can create content, plan the schedule, manage influencers, do all this stuff." And it's like and then by the way, it's 25 grand per annum with great perks, right? Like, one person can't do all that stuff. I think we're just further down the road, like. Because back in the day, you'd have the marketing department and people just worked in marketing and they work across all things. Whereas now, obviously, we drill down further into that, right? Everybody knows you have your social media department, you might have display, you might have whatever it might be, paid media. We've just gone even further down that rabbit hole in social. So rather than just having a social team, we have obviously the social guys that are responsible for posting, for planning, right? Like the understanding what the commercial calendar looks like and making sure all that's in line. Then you have a team who have no session targets, that don't need to know what the commercial calendar looks like, don't need to worry about schedules. Their job is to make noise on platforms. Do you know what I mean? Find moments, cut through and make noise. Because right now, everybody on trying to think of an event, right? Everybody around, like, I don't know. Okay, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, right? So Black Friday, everybody's going to be, our deals are coming soon. Look out for it, Black Friday, or it could be a Christmas thing, a holiday thing, Thanksgiving in the States. So when so many more people are now in the room vying for the attention, it's more important than ever to be able to cut through the noise, right? That's what we did with HomeShark. Everyone was trying to figure out, how do we pivot, right? Big word of 2020. How do we pivot for the COVID and staying at home and whatever else? Everybody's content started to look the same. Here's a workout you can do with a few books in your backpack, do some squats, whatever else. Rather than doing that, the guys went HomeShark because some of you guys needed reminding to stay at home, right? And cut through the noise, million likes, loads of celebrities and everybody sharing it, and it flew around the internet. So that team, like, their job is to cut through the noise in a very noisy room, and that is social media right now.
But you guys have a fantastic following, and actually the way you have structured your social media again is innovative versus anyone else in the market. The fact that you have your Gymshark Women, Gymshark Train, you have your main Gymshark account, does that allow you to communicate to those communities specifically in a different way than you would perhaps do through the main account, or is it to help that disruption?
I think that I'm not sure. In the beginning, I think we just did it as almost from like a target demographic point of view. What it's developed into now is a really clear value proposition. If you look at the style of posts on Gymshark Women, they're very different to Gymshark Main. That's because we know people that like that demographic doesn't go there, or those cohorts don't go there for the same reasons. If you want workout inspiration, which so many people do these days on Instagram, right? You're going to Gymshark Train, right? It's super clear. So, and then from there, we know who to partner with and who to push traffic to where, because Gymshark Women is much more about like outfit inspiration, almost the intersection of fashion and fitness, right? And how you can style outfits and put them together. So if we were to work with an influencer who puts together great outfits, right, a Molly May or and someone like that, and then we had them driving traffic to Gymshark Train, when they got there, they'd be like, oh, I came here for style, or almost style inspo, and I've landed on workouts, like, and then you're going to notice low conversion, right, turning into followers. Whereas if you have a clear value prop of what the Gymshark Instagram page is, what the Gymshark Women Instagram page is, and what the Gymshark Train Instagram page is, then you can send relevant traffic to the right places. And there's a real clear value prop of what that provides to the consumer. Otherwise, you just end up with this mismatch of different content, a bit of commercial stuff, bit of trying to go viral, you just end up like as just a bit of an afterthought and a dumping ground for all your sort of marketing comms. Whereas, yeah, ours is quite refined, and we have very clear value propositions of what all our accounts are there to do.
I think that's really clear, and it's very evident when you go on there, because as you say, the feel and the look is quite different across the different platforms. But that being said, I think a number of people, it's the typical corporate response, right? When you look at big businesses that have done it, they've done it by country, and they've done it by country because of budget reasons or something else, and it just doesn't always make sense. Whereas you guys have actually done it by what's the value, what's the customer want to get out of it, what do we want to communicate to the customer in that, and it's so much clearer.
Like you said there, I think you can sometimes see in business, like when I look at those, if I search whatever the company would be, right? If it was us and I searched Gymshark and I saw Gymshark US, Gymshark DE, Gymshark UK, Gymshark Sweden, like I can see the org from that, right? I don't want to see the org in your marketing. I want to see that you've thought customer first in your marketing, not what your org structure looks like. Do you know what I mean? And like I said earlier, like we put the Gymshark community to the heart of everything we do. The value proposition is the value prop to the consumer, not to us, right? It's like, what do they want to see and why would they come and visit these pages? Not, oh, whose department looks after that? Well, let's make it that then. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, even little decisions like that, you can see where our customer first mentality sort of seeps in.
Definitely. So you focus on marketing to the digitally native. Is that because that's where your consumer is, or is that because that's where your strengths are and where you can cut through the noise?
I think both. I think our strengths are there. I think so. I actually developed the phrase a little bit because digital natives, that Mark Prensky thing that came up from like 1980 onwards. 1980 onwards, a little bit too old for us, if I'm being completely honest. It's like 1990 is our sweet spot.
We weren't
Onwards from
born.
there.
It's okay.
I was born
We
in
weren't born.
1990, so I just made it in. But the social natives, what we've sort of dubbed that, the people that grew up with social media, that remember running home from school to jump onto MSN Messenger. They remember Tom on MySpace. They remember these things, right, as it developed, and they're there for the inception of Instagram, TikTok, whatnot. Those are kind of the oldest cohorts that we tend to find in our customer base. But I think it's two things, right? We know how to connect with them because we came up with them. And then equally, we've developed our skills around that, right? And there's a lot of underpriced attention there as well, right? Like when we joined TikTok, it was called Musically, right? But we saw the numbers of our age group, our interest groups that were on there. We're like, wow, how is this being ignored? And it was because at the time brands had never really got onto Musically and figured out how it worked, and people thought it was a bit weird. But you got to remember, people thought Instagram was weird at first. Like the concept of a selfie, if you remember at a certain point, was cringeworthy, and everyone used to call pouting the duck face that people were doing, right? So you have to look at these things and go, right, is that weird because it's weird, or is it weird because people just aren't used to it yet? Now, if somebody sitting next to you in a restaurant whips out their phone and starts doing selfies, that's a complete societal norm. How long is it going to be, right, before somebody stands up next to you in Vapiano's or Nando's or whatever else and starts doing a straight up TikTok dance in front of their chicken? Wouldn't surprise me if that became completely normal, because it happened with Instagram. So we just try and lean into like, what do we think is next for social natives? And by the way, like I know that I'm semi showing off when I say, when we got into TikTok, it was called Musically, right? We were there first, blah blah blah. There's also a bunch of losses that we've taken. So there's loads of stuff that we've been like, oh my god, this platform's going to be huge, and we've invested time into it. And guess what? It's done nothing. But you know, it will pay off when you get one of those things right. Because now with it, I think there was like a survey done recently on the biggest fitness brands on TikTok, and Gymshark's number 2 with 3 billion tagged posts. That's just because we got there early, right? I've got this analogy, which again you may have heard, which I repeat to death, which is get your towel down early, and it's a reference to like European holidays. You know, there's like a race in the morning to the beach to get your towel down and get a good spot, or to the swimming pool. It's like we got our towel down very early on the Musically beach, and or the TikTok beach, and we've now benefited from that.
You know, I literally came back from holiday last week and there was a race, and it was only the British. No one else does the race. It's only the British.
Yeah, civil war with the Brits to get a nice
It's just
spot.
hilarious. Yeah, it
No
really
way.
was. And so, in terms of your competitors, again, you guys don't consider yourself the big brand, even though you are now, you know, up there. Nike isn't a competitor of yours. You've said it a million times. And I know that you're more scared of the 19-year-old coming in the room with the next big idea. That is a direct Noel Mack quote.
It is indeed.
But is there anyone else who you do consider as a competitor? As anyone else who you consider, you know, that they're going about things in a different way?
Yeah, I don't think they're a competitor. I love the way Tesla do things though, because they're such lateral thinkers and they do things in a different way. No, you know what? I don't know. That's a really difficult question, because I think of like, I know that, you know, typically if someone said ran up to somebody with a gun to their head and said Gymsharks Competitors, I know who they're going to say, right? It's going to be other people who make leggings, but I kind of don't see it as that. I think like it's because we're like a brand first and a retailer second. I more think like stuff like Netflix, because it's just attention and eyeballs. Do you know what I mean? And like people go onto our TikTok just to hang out and get entertained, right? Not because they think our leggings are great. That's not why they're hanging out on our TikTok page. It's entertainment. So even stuff like Netflix, you could argue that that's taking the share of attention from us. Squid Games, do you know what I mean? And whatever. And so then the interesting question is, right, if we can rival those guys for eyeballs, which again, it's a daunting task. But if we could, you can imagine the dividends that would pay and how that would water down through culture and into our e-commerce sales and everything else. But that tends to be the way I think of things. It's like, who's culturally? Oh, I'll tell you. Like, does anybody ever forward you memes from pages like Archbishop of Banterbury or anything like that?
That's the exact first one that always gets sent over.
Yeah, or I'm Just Bait, or any of these pages. Like, this is social media attention, right? And this is like eyeballs and cultural understanding and whatever else. Like, I love what those guys do. Like, and I know people might see that as just, you know, some kid in a bedroom somewhere sharing memes, but they're influencing culture, man, 100%. So yeah, like
They're so
maybe,
timely. They are
yeah, maybe those
always
guys.
on the trend, aren't they? Like, they're never a second
Munya,
behind.
you've seen Munya's videos, right? Like he always does these like hilarious straight after the fact. He did when Facebook went down the other day. He did like a Bear Grylls impression, going, "Facebook's been down for 6 hours now, and I've started to eat my own arm or whatever it is." Like and it's just so timely and perfect. And like those ideas are like avocados, right? Leave them too long, they go brown and they're awful. But if you get them just at the moment, at the right time, they're amazing. I think that's what we did with HomeShark. I think that's what Munya's absolutely mastered. And I think that's what, again, you know, marketeers who are worried about the imposing social media revolution, if they've spent their whole career doing DM and out of home and they're feeling a bit worried, all you got to do is hang out on some meme pages, hang out on some influencers like Munya, and you'll get it straight away. And the timeliness of it, and the moments in culture that you have to capitalize on, those guys are absolute masters of that.
Is that how you guys continue to, I guess, not just cut through the noise, but how you continue to differentiate? Is that actually you're looking for those new trends? You're not looking to be who you were yesterday. You're looking for who you want to be next year. What's the trend next year?
Yeah, and I think it's just the values of the business and the mission of the business will remain the same, right? And we'll stay true to that. It's just the way you deliver that message to the people that's going to have to change. The way we get attention, on social media right now is completely different to the way we did 12 months ago, is completely different to the way we did 12 months before. So we're agnostic on that point. We're flexible in approach when it comes to how that message gets out, as long as the message, roots back to the same cause. It's about bettering yourself tomorrow. It's about putting in work, conditioning. Because there's this interesting thing that I've been toying with at the minute. And this is all going to get a little bit Jordan Peterson now, but the we're in this like society now where you can have most things really, really quickly, right? You want to watch it, like, it wasn't like that when I was younger, right? But you want to watch a movie right now. You want to listen to that album right now. You want that thing on Amazon Prime. It could be in the next 2 hours, maybe latest tomorrow morning, right? You can just get things so easily. There's, employees market right now because there's jobs. It's the economy is going well. There's a plethora of choice, and you can have stuff so easy. Almost like the last bastion of the thing that you still have to work for is fitness. You can't have that tomorrow, right? You want abs? Sorry, there's no Jeff Bezos can't get you abs, right? Or if you want to be able to run a marathon, Bezos can't help you with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, you have to put in the work. You have to turn up every day. You have to adjust your lifestyle. And I love the fact that we can promote that message and show people that it's not as daunting as it seems. You can find we will say that we create the clothing you'll sweat in, the community you'll become your best in, and the content that you'll immerse yourself in, right? So if we can create all those things, and although it is tough and you can't have it tomorrow, through Gymshark and the sort of the stuff we put out there into the world, you can realize that it's a bit more palatable than you might think.
Ever since you've mentioned it as well, you'll just find me in the Gymshark comments. I'm no longer, your content's great, but actually you're right, the comments is where the interesting stuff is, and it's where the debate actually happens. I've now become a convert with, if I see a post that I like, actually, let's just click in the comments, because chances are everyone in the comments is going to be quite like-minded, or they're going to be the polar opposite and they're going to be arguing against whatever we've said. Either way, it's a form of entertainment. You're exactly
100%.
right with that. I've never thought of it.
Explicit and implicit insight, that is. There's loads of, there's the stuff that people tell you because they tell you, and the stuff that they tell you without them knowing they're telling you stuff. So, like, well, if you're hanging out in the comments, it's you and me creeping around in there in the darkness, because I'm in there all the time, like tweets, Facebook community groups, Instagram comments, like that's where I spend the majority of my time.
And no one would ever think that of a chief brand officer until you'd said it. They wouldn't, would they? They would imagine that you're doing all the glamorous stuff on the photo shoots, doing the big blue sky thinking. But you're right. The ideas from the big blue sky stuff probably comes from down in the dark, as you called it. In terms of, you moved over to Gymshark full time. Let's pull it back. What do you think your biggest achievement has been at Gymshark?
Oh, man.
Personal question. I know you're not going to like it.
Biggest achievement at Gymshark? Honestly, there's no one thing that I've done alone, right? I've got such an amazing team. And when I say team, I mean like my fellow chiefs, I mean the brand team, my direct reports. They're just like, I started off with 3 people when I got here, and now it's like 200 plus, right? And like they're all unbelievable. And there's not one thing that I've done solo. There's always been so many key players to it who are probably way more important to it than I am. So I like to think that I just created a little bit of a breeding ground for free-flowing ideas, and for 19-year-olds to be able to have their voices heard, and for lateral thinking to be able to thrive, because it's so often in business, entrepreneurs and free thinkers and lateral thinkers start businesses, right? Because you need a bit of a wacky person to start a business, because it's a terrible idea. And then you bring in sort of train track thinkers to get it working nice and efficiently. But then one day the goalposts move, and guess what? You left all your lateral thinkers and your free thinkers back in the startup phase, and now it's just train track thinkers who have 15 years experience, but all of a sudden all that experience has become irrelevant because the goalposts moved. So again, look at some of the bricks and mortar stuff that's closed down in the UK recently because the e-commerce revolution happened. So I like to think that I've kept new ideas and free thinking and lateral thinking at the top of the agenda, and made people realize why it is important, and equally over time hopefully had some wins with that to prove that that's what we need to keep Gymshark, like you say, big but thinking small. I think understanding. I listened to one of your other podcasts before this, and there was the lady from Flowerbox who talked about how often the important thing was to say no. I always said a similar thing to my team, which was like understanding what our biggest challenge is, understanding what we shouldn't do next, not what we should do next, because I feel like we have this small flame of a brand that I know one day will turn into the biggest British brand ever, one of the biggest brands on the planet, and it's really important we nurture that, right? And everybody wants to get a piece of it. Every financial institutions or other brands who want to collab or this and that. Oh, you know what you guys should do? Everybody wants to tell it. You know what you guys should do? Everybody wants to tell you that. But it's just about staying in your lane, blinkers on, and just keep doing, what we're good at, and taking that as far as we can take it. And then maybe once we sort of plateau with that, we'll look at some other opportunities and whatever else. But it certainly hasn't slowed down lately. And I don't think it's going to slow down anytime soon either.
No, and I love your idea of pop-up shops as well, just as a concept instead of so that you've got that bricks and mortar without it being permanent.
Speaking of which, literally my wonderful PR team right now are in Shoreditch. We created a pop-up nail salon, which again, you might think nail
Nails.
salon, like what's it? But I'll go back to what I talked about earlier, right? Of like underpriced attention, social media trends, so on and so forth. Nail art has become so huge on social lately. We launched a new range with some really interesting patterns, and the PR team's idea was to transfer those designs and patterns into nail designs, and they set up in Shoreditch a nail salon where you could go along, get your nails done for free in the style of our new collection, and then just literally sit influencers and and even just consumers and just create great content around your matching Gymshark outfits and nails. Which I saw some of the stuff go up on Gymshark Women yesterday. It looks so cool. And again, just talking about tapping into culture, right, and cultural shifts and social media trends. That is the physical embodiment of that sort of idea.
That's a brilliant idea. I'm actually quite close to Shoreditch. I might be
There you
venturing
go.
down there
Get
this
down there.
weekend.
Get your
Thanks.
nails did.
And so one of the questions I'm sure you've seen then that we ask at the end of every podcast is, what's your favorite e-commerce brand, excluding yourself, and why?
I've got so many, right? Because we're such close friends with Shopify and we hang out with them, I see these stories all the time. Do we think Tesla's e-commerce? Because you buy the cars on their website?
Potentially, yeah.
I saw recently. Okay, I'm gonna give you two answers then. Somebody showed me recently that how many clicks it takes to buy a Tesla, and I was blown away because it was something like 7 clicks. And like, I'm embarrassed to admit, I think some of our leggings are longer than that to get through, and size, color, whatever, add to bag. And I think, wow, that's amazing. That is. I like anything where somebody's looked at the business model and gone, no, this feels wrong and weird, even though it's worked that way for a long time. And I think Elon did that with like showrooms, right? He was like, so you got a guy in a suit, a car in the middle of the showroom which you can't drive, touch, whatever, and he just sort of loosely shows you around it and says, "Do you want to buy one?" Seems pointless. Rent's expensive. Let's just sell them online. I think that's really cool. Love that thinking. But if you want a proper answer of like a e-commerce brand, I was looking for some like acetate glasses for a while, right? Like the clear lenses. I just saw somebody wearing them. I thought they looked cool. I wanted to get some, and I have an enormous melon head, so I have to be very careful like where I buy glasses from because like they all look tiny on me. These are actual sunglasses which I swap the lenses out of. So anyway, I googled acetate glasses and I found this brand called Ace and Tate. Right, that's the name of the brand. It was obviously a play on, and all their glasses were acetate. So it was a play on that, which I thought was really cool. They'd done the VR thing, and say what you want about VR. It's useful in some applications, or AR, like IKEA with the furniture. They've done that where you could sort of see it on your face, but that's not great, right? You don't know if the measurements are exact, and whatever. But first of all, the cost of the frames was really reasonable. Second of all, you could pick like 5 frames that you like the look of. I think you paid for shipping and only shipping. All 5 frames turn up at your house. You can try them on, send them back, then tell them, yeah, I like those ones, and then have your frame and then have your glasses made up, obviously with your
Wow.
prescription from that. And it was so good. It was like, wow, like if I was the CMO of Specsavers or whatever else, and I went on this website, I would be quaking in my boots because it's like this is going to be the way forward for sure. I went into Specsavers not long after it, and trying all the frames in the shop, and then you got to send the thing off for like back in 4 or 5 days, whatever it was. And I was the only thing that I thought Ace and Tate was missing was being able to actually test your eyes and do the prescription. But then I was in down at Truman Brewery recently, and I saw they have a shop down there where they are doing that now. So I just think the friction they've removed from that entire process, and the fact that they're still profitable based on all that shipping back and forth, I think is pretty revolutionary, man. So yeah, let me go with my firm answer of Ace and Tate, and my controversial one of Tesla.
I know I like them. I've come across Ace and Tate, but I didn't realize that was how their service worked. So I'm definitely going to be taking a look because I, like you, have a rather large head and it's rather challenging. In fact, I just sent a pair of Oakleys back today because they're not designed for big heads. And if you could ask, it might be Elon at this rate. If you could ask one other e-commerce leader question, anything you would like to know, what would it be?
What's next for websites themselves?
Oh, good one.
Because I have this hypothesis, this daunting theory that e-commerce, right now, when you think e-commerce, you think of a website. I think when you think e-commerce in the future, you'll think almost like channel first. I think we'll be shopping on Netflix, shopping on Instagram, shopping on TikTok, shopping on YouTube, whatever else. And e-commerce is almost like the pipe work that, sits behind that. But then what does that mean for .com, right? Does .com become lookbook, just more information about the brand, if that's not where you're doing the majority of your shopping? So what's next on that front? What people think comes next there? Because I don't think anybody truly knows that. So I'd be interested to see if Elon or anybody else way smarter than me has any theories on where that's going to go.
It's a good question. Really good.
If any of your future guests, let you in on what's next, just give me a shout and let me know.
Yeah, of course I will do. I'll drop you a mail or an email just to see what comes up. You never know though, because it's always interesting. And as you say, it's always the small guys that probably have the insight actually, because
The next 19-year-old in the garage, I'm telling you, those are the ones to be scared of. Not the boardroom execs at the big brands. It's the next 19-year-old in the garage. You got to look out for them, or employ them before they do it.
Not the Ben Francis in his Defender with his green trousers. Isn't that how you
No,
describe
yeah, he's
him
getting
now?
old. Yeah, Ben's out of touch now. He's an old man now. He's getting old. He's getting old before his years.
Bless him. But no, seriously, thank you ever so much for your time.
It's tough. And yeah, and again, thanks for having me on the podcast. But more importantly, thanks for the donation to the Women and Children's Hospital. That was amazing.
No, anytime. We can't wait to see where Gymshark goes next.
Thanks, Hannah.